Howdy, everybody. Chess College. It is 7 o'clock here. It's cooling down a bit. It's going to go up to 112 this weekend, so it's not cool yet. Um, Wednesday, the last day of the month. Tomorrow's September, folks. If you're a Virgo, like I am, it's a good month. Hope you're having some sort of enjoyment out there in your life. It's not too brutal. We're in school. It's not that bad. But I know we all work, we all have personal lives, and the rest. Hopefully, we have all that. Hopefully, you do too, and you have hopes and dreams. Hope you're fulfilling some of them. Well, this class, we're learning about movies, Hollywood cinema. Today, I'm going to talk about a very important year in Hollywood, 1939. But before I do that, I want to briefly mention the essays again. And you have to look at my announcements. Look at the assignments. I explain what I'm looking for in the essays. Now, if you completely stumble and give me just your personal opinion, thumbs up, you don't like something, it's in black and white, it's silent, whatever the complaints are, you will lose points over that. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to analyze what makes that film matter. These films I'm choosing are all pretty heavyweight master cinema classics in their time. Every Hollywood movie now is standing on the shoulders of these old films. They have to be taken serious. The technology they had when they made these films, the kid, let's say, was really primitive compared to what we have now. Look what they did with what they had. Why it works, why you don't think it works. What does the direction look like? What does a director do? He directs everything in front of the lens. People moving, people talking, people sitting, people standing, people riding horses. He's directing all that imagery. He's directing the performances. Yes, even when it's silent, he's directing their emotional performances. Charlie Chaplin was pretty good at that. A lot of you said the film came to life when the music started. Well, folks, that music wasn't there every time it played because in some cities they couldn't afford the orchestra and it played to a lone piano player or sometimes no piano player. But that was okay. They didn't require the music to tell you how to feel like we do now in movies. Think about that. What does music do in movies now? If the character's sad, the music is sad. If the character's happy, they're happy. If they're having some rock and roll sex, they're having a rock and roll soundtrack. The soundtrack tells you every emotion. Classic cinema didn't need to do that. It was an insult for the music to play on your emotions. That's what I have issues with people like George Lucas and Steve Spielberg, who use John Williams music to ramp up the emotions. Would you like Star Wars if that soundtrack wasn't there? If it was a jazz pianist, would you like the movie as much? It would be a different movie, wouldn't it? Soundtracks are really hugely important. I'm going to do a whole lecture on it, but not today. About music soundtracks, I should say, because that's going to play an important part as we get into movies, more so than the early movies. So look at the performers. Are they convincing? Are they doing their job? Are you convinced that the child is actually an orphan, or does he just look like some Hollywood brat who's living in Beverly Hills and they're just telling him how to behave? Or does it look real? Is it happening? Do they look like they're impoverished? Why do you think Charlie Chaplin impoverished him like that? His character was called the Little Tramp. Why do you think he did that? He's sticking it to the upper class privileged people who had everything handed to them. His characters don't have that. They're struggling to meet ends meet, struggling to feed themselves, pay their rent, and sometimes they do illegal things like breaking windows and then going in and repairing them. Yes, it's an illegal activity, but now we have people dealing drugs to survive. There's really no difference. You do what it takes to survive as long as you're not hurting anybody. And so the themes in the movie, there's many, many themes. Um, Abandonment is a huge one. They're all orphans in that movie. Even this opera singer is alone and lost. Yes, she has a nice career. She lives in a nice house. She has no love in her life. She gave up her baby. Charlie Chaplin's character, the little tramp, appears to have no family. Why do you think he picked that child up? He was trying to fulfill a void in his life. Love, unrequited love, are huge themes in most films. The child didn't have a choice in any of this. He's just a child. He was abandoned. So it wasn't his choice to be left and picked up by the little tramp. The class system is a huge theme in that movie. The upper class and the lower class. And that's huge. The upper class has the upper hand. It still does, folks. So these are the kind of things you need to write about. Instead of saying, it was boring, there's not enough action, I don't understand why they're not speaking. It's in black and white. Yeah, we know it is. They didn't have any other choice. That was the state of the art. Same with the film you're writing about now. It happened one night. It's black and white, folks. State of the art. And things to look for in this new movie. Same themes. It's a class struggle. Have you watched the movie yet? The paper's due. I don't know when it's due this week. Or I just assign it. I have to look at the due dates. I think it's due the first of next week. You should watch the movie. It's a class struggle. I'm going to give you some answers now, some stuff you could use. Do you know what I mean by classes? The upper class, the people who are privileged, who have money, who have nice houses, who seems like their bills are paid. They have people who work for them. And then there's the people who don't have any of that. Zero. Well, he's a hardworking reporter and she's a debutante. She's a rich, spoiled brat. But she's got a soul. She's got a heart. She could be hurt. That's playing in it. The times they filmed that movie, The Depression, everybody was out of work and poor. They're riding the bus. She's not used to that. She's used to riding in yachts. So she's getting a life lesson in the Great Depression. That's a huge part of that film. The sexual times. In those days, they could not, show the sex that they show now on Game of Thrones. Everybody's getting raped and sodomized, and they show it every day. And then the dragon flies through, and some guy with long hair shoots an arrow into the dragon. Pretty fantasy like. We've gone from the kid to flying dragons, but we'll talk about that later. Hopefully. So, um, looking at it happened one night. There's people telling the truth. There's people telling lies. She's on the bus and she sees how or not normal people, but I should say, regular people who aren't privileged, living on yachts. She sees how they live, how they entertain themselves, how they survive in a really tough world. It's not so easy. She learns a life lesson in survival. What do you think of the performances? Claudia Kelber convincing as Clark Gable. This is one of his first starring roles. He became a huge, huge star later, like compare him to Harrison Ford of his time or something. Not a deep actor, but a movie star of the highest order. Strong jaw, ironclad ethics, And that's another thing in the movie. Ethical choices is huge. You can write about all that. The camera, what's it doing? Is it moving? Is it capturing what it needs to capture? Is it telling the story convincingly? Are you confused in the story? Because the camera is not telling you the story. Um, that's probably not going to happen because they know what they're doing with the cameras. Yeah, and then and they have music in that. You could write about that a bit if you want. Um, those are just a few of the things. Then I wrote yesterday. I've written it several times in announcements. What I'm looking for when it comes to grades and what I mark down on. Just look at that list. Don't do it. First thing I mark down on, short paper. You will lose a point. Right off the bat, if it's not 3 pages, it has to be 3 pages. I look at that, 1 point off, maybe two if I'm in a bad mood, especially if keep repeating it. And I don't feel you're looking at the announcements or watching this fantastic lecture. I even shaved for you guys today. So um, I'm looking for analysis of the film, critical analysis, not the telling of the plot. That's not the assignment. If I assigned you to please watch the movie and tell the plot, I would say that. So please don't tell the plot. That's not going to do you any good. It's just padding the paper. If you're telling the plot, you'll lose another point. I'm trying to think what's on the list now, what I marked down on. Try to keep current cinema out of it. Don't compare it. Well, I'm not used to black and white. I'm not used to silent films. I'm not used to this. Well, okay, we get it. You're not used to it. You don't watch this stuff. You don't need to state it. It's not about your journey as the writer. It's about your analysis of that film. Stick to the film itself. These films matter. Try to figure out why it matters. It may not matter to you. That's fine, but it mattered. And they're still writing about this film, the kid that happened one night. We're going to write about Citizen Kane soon. They're still writing about them 80, 100 years after everybody's dead. Why do you think? That's how a profound effect they had on the American culture, the universal culture. We haven't gotten into Europe films yet because right now in Europe, things aren't good. Hitler's invading countries, movies have stopped. We'll be talking about foreign films when we get into after post World War II. Not yet. So, what else do I grade down on? Well, there's a list up there. Okay. I'm just looking for your work. Oh, I know. A copy and paste job from a website. Yes, I hope you do. Go do a little research on these movies, not just watch it. Do a little research on it. That will help you. It's like in my day it was Clef Notes. What are they called? Spark Notes? Sparkle Notes now? Why is it Sparkle Notes? Were you guys in grammar school? What is it, a Disney movie? Clef Notes was the old day. And you'd go in there, you'd have to read a book, Shakespeare, and you don't understand it. We all did this. It's okay. You get the Clef Notes and it explains things. Okay, but you're not quoting out of the Cliff Notes. That's just there as a tool. So don't use Wikipedia. Use it as a tool. I don't care. Google, whatever. But don't take a big chunk of it, swipe it, copy and paste it into your paper. I can always tell. It's cheating. It's just not your words. I want to see your words. Read your words, your language. And you all have a voice, by the way. Yes, you do. You may not think you do, but you do. It could be awkward, it could be profound, it could be poetic, all of that. You don't know. Put your voice down on that paper. It's not easy. Those are a few things I marked down on. Another pet peeve of mine, but I don't mark it down for, just number your pages so I can skim through it, see that you did three without counting them. Number your pages. That's part of the MLA format, which you should be using. Double space, New Times Roman font, 12 font, number your pages, and the title of the essay and your name. Simple. Okay, hope that helps. Look at this lecture again. Yes, you'll have to listen to it. I know it's a hassle, but you'd be in class right now, right? And I used in class, they were held twice a week, and I had to lecture for 75 minutes. Mostly we would watch a movie and I talk about 15 minutes. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm talking way too much right now. Anyway, so those are a few things. Also, look at my notes. I've spelled it out in detail. Look at it. Read the announcements. What do I got grade down on? Don't do it. I want to see your words, your brilliant words. Let them shine. I always end my assignments by saying, write strong, write honest, write the truth. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Okay, quick note about 1939 films. We're coming out of the Depression. Yes, F. Franklin Roosevelt is the president. He comes up with this thing called the New Deal. This is part of the culture around the Depression. It's called the New Deal. He's putting people back to work by using taxpayers' money to build highways, bridges, buildings. He started building the freeway system. We didn't have one. We just had 2-lane highways. He started putting people back to work. He started giving money to the arts. And so it put people back to work. It was called the New Deal, and it changed everything, brought us out of the Depression. And so we were doing good. And so Hollywood always responds to when there's more money to be made, and they started making huge epic movies like Gone with the Wind, which is made in color, by the way. Wizard of Oz, you've all seen it, hopefully, with your family. Half of it's in black and white. Kansas is black and white. Oz is in color. Why anybody would want to go back to Kansas, I have no idea. She wanted to get back there so bad. It was dull. It was boring. It was in black and white. I'd stay up in Oz. I'd be hanging out with the Munchkins. They seemed really happy up there, except for, the witch. But she gets killed. The witch is not even up there anymore. Trees talk. It's a psychedelic atmosphere up in the Wizard of Oz there. I think when Frank Baum wrote that, I think he took some psychedelic drugs. They had them in those days. It wasn't LSD, but they had mushrooms and peyote. I think might have been dabbling. And then John Ford, the great director, directed 3 movies in 1 year, and they're all considered classics. Can you imagine a director now directing 3 movies in 1 year? On average, it takes a movie 3 to 5 years to be made now. It's a whole different world. We can talk about that when we get into current cinema. But in the old days, it was a factory. They called it the studio system, and he would be filming one movie at this soundstage, and the next soundstage they're building the sets for his next movie. On the next soundstage over, they're building the sets on the movie he's going to make after that one. The scripts have already been made. It's a factory. They got 20 writers. Here's your script. On the next, he doesn't know what he's going to even do yet. He's a studio worker. He's assigned these projects, but he has a reputation of being a very fine director, and so he got the real A projects, and he put his personal stamp on them. Usually, they're about American history. Stagecoach about the American West, Drums Along the Mohawk, the Revolutionary War, young Mr. Lincoln before Abraham Lincoln became president. He went on to do great historical films like Grapes of Wrath, How Green Was My Valley, and then in the 50s, he was making John Wayne westerns like The Searchers, She Wore Yellow Ribbon. He referred to himself as a Western director, but he directed contemporary, not a lot, but most of his stuff was historical. 3 in 1 year, and these are epic films. He could do that because the system was in full gear. They wanted him to get those movies out. And so in 1 year, he did Stagecoach, which is a movie that changed all of Western movies from then on. It was an adult Western. And when I say adult, folks, Don't think your X-rated adult stuff. I'm talking about emotional adults. They dealt with adults. This wasn't good guy and bad guy. It's a thin line in that movie. Who is the good guy? Who's the bad guy? John Wayne is the hero, but he's a known gunfighter. He's like, the Ringo Kid. He is. And he's seeking revenge on his brothers. He's not a really good guy, but he is the hero of the piece. People on the Stagecoach are all from different walks of life, but they're all being kicked out of this town because they've breached the moral ethics of the town and they want them gone. That's what they used to do in those days. Now, if you work in a bar, a woman, you're considered a prostitute. She probably was. And they would kick them out of the town. They didn't arrest them, but they would boot them out of the town. In the thing, there's a doctor in the bus, not the bus, the Stagecoach. He's an alcoholic. He messed up in surgery. He messed up his life because of his drinking. There's the corrupt banker who's leaving the town because he's bilked a bunch of money out of the bank. He's actually on the run. Of course, it's all supposed to be kept secret. There's the good mother woman who's pregnant and is waiting to meet her husband, who's in the military. She's the good two shoots. She doesn't even want to sit next to the prostitute because her morals, her ethics are so high. She's the society that looks down at people like the woman from the bar, the saloon. There's the gunfighter, the gambler in there. The traveling salesman what does he sell? Booze, folks. Boy, is the doctor happy to meet that guy because he's got a lot of samples. And they're going across desolate Indian country and they're being attacked by Indians. And yes, John Wayne kills a lot of Indians. By the time they make it to the town where he gets revenge on his brothers, he falls in love with the prostitute or the bar woman. He doesn't care what she is. It's like falling in love with a porn star. I know all you guys are thinking, oh, it's my dream to fall in love with a porn star. Could you take it? I don't know if you could take that life. She's off at work every day with 10 different guys doing whatever they do, and you're at home cooking the dinner. You want to live like that? You'd have to be a strong person to deal with a lifestyle like that. Anyway, okay, where else am I? So there's Stagecoach. Young Mr. Lincoln was another movie made that year, historical document about Abraham Lincoln before he was president. He's a lawyer. Henry Fonda played the part. It's a life lesson. Ford is always giving us moral, ethical lessons on how to be better people. He did Drums Along the Mohawk, was with Henry Fonda and Claudia Colbert, the same woman from Happened One Night, and they're settling way out in upper state New York. And believe it or not, that was the Wild West in those days, and their revolutionary wars going on with England, and England has hired the Mohawk Indians, and Henry Fonda and his people have to hide in the fort fighting them off. It's a rousing story. It really is. I love that movie. Anyway, I'll put some samples up on the YouTube. You'll see them. So it was a big movie year. Gone with the Wind was probably the biggest movie ever made at that time. It was considered, and the only thing you can compare it to now would be something like Star Wars. It was that big. It was a phenomenon. It was based on a bestseller book. And every actress and every actor wanted to be a part of it. And it was shot in color. Yes, they had color film, but it's very expensive and costly to do. It took special labs and everything was special about it. And but once people got a taste of color, they loved it. But most of the 1942 on the war movies were all in black and white. because it was economical decision mostly, and people still accepted black and white, and color was only there for a real special occasion. Wizard of Oz would be another one. Um, it was a revolution. Color film had been around for quite a while, but they didn't incorporate it with too many films. Now they're going to. So the game is on. 1939 bumper crop. If you Wikipedia, look at the list. You won't know any of those things on the list. They are classic Hollywood cinema. It's like maybe 100 films. Wuthering Heights. I can't name them all off the top of my head. In that 1 year alone, they couldn't wait to make films again in this big style because the Depression had shut it all down. They're making small movies, successful movies, screwball comedies, monster movies, musicals, gangster films, all successful, shot on relatively modest budgets. The 1930s is a special year of grit and survival, and how Hollywood rose to the occasion to let us have some sort of positive feeling about our lives as an audience because we didn't have jobs or couldn't pay our rent or feed our kids. Go to a movie, disappear into the world, and you take a breather and come out and start dealing with the world again. I'm still doing that. Okay, kids, that's it. I'll see you next week. Look at your assignment, read the paper, look at these lectures. I'm giving all the answers away in these lectures. You got to watch them. That's the key to the lectures. Say next time, enjoy this Labor Day weekend, the last big holiday, big push of the year. And then it's 112 on Sunday. And then it's hopefully we get into real fall eventually. Anyway, take it easy. Be safe out there.